afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing today? It's Tim again from Seagate Wines, and today we're going to talk about how to read wine labels. So wine labels can be notoriously complicated and quite difficult to understand if you don't understand where the wine is from. So we're going to do a few different labels here, and we're going to start with the easiest ones. So the easiest wines to understand are almost always New World wines. So starting with wines from California, which we have here. There's also, Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Argentina. Most of these New World wines are very, very simple to read the labels and know exactly what it is that you're getting. And they do it intentionally. It's marketing on their behalf. It's helping to create a very fast wine culture that people can go to the store, grab what they want. They know exactly what it is. They go home and then they drink it. 95% of all wine drank was purchased within 6 hours of drinking. And I honestly find that insane. But here we are. So let's start with this one. So this is from our friends at Boletto in Sonoma County. And the label has just a little bit of artwork, the name of the winery, the vintage year, the grape varieties. This is a Pinot Noir from the Russian River Valley. So that's its designation. And then it just lets you know that it was estate grown, estate bottled in Sonoma County. And then we go to the back label, and that's where there's usually more information on the back label of a wine. So the back label has all the exact same information, but then it also tells you a little bit of story about the area, the region, how the wine was made, and then it has the American legal requirements. And American legal requirements on the back of a wine label are more than any other country as far as I know. They tend to have a lot more rules and regulations about the size of the label, about what has to be said on the label. So this one has your traditional government warning, please do not drink too much, don't drink if you're pregnant, these kind of things. It has a UPC code, and then it has the Sonoma County designation stamp. This one has the alcohol by volume on the front label. Not all wine labels will do that, so most of them are on the back. Let's move similar in style, but a little bit closer to the old world style. This is from Austria. This is from Schloss Gobelsberg, which is the oldest producing winery in Austria. So the winery name, not really on the front label, but on its own individual label. Then the bottom is a picture of the house. Then Reedstein. So Ried in German is basically Cru, which means single vineyard. And Steinsetz is the name of that single vineyard. The bottom here says Kamptal, that's the designation from where it's from, and then your vintage year on the bottom. Now this has a couple of the same things here. It has the designation stamp on the side, and then on the back it will have the same stamp, but this is the one for the Austria Wine Council stamp on the back. Legal requirements, very similar in Austria as they are to America. Alcohol by volume on the back instead of on the front. And then it has all the same information that you found on the front, plus it tells you the grape variety on the back. So this is 100% Gruner Veltliner, which it does not say on the front. So look to the back label to see if you can find more information. So into Old World. So this is kind of a cross. This is from France. This is from the Languedoc area of France. So Languedoc is just north of Provence in the southern part of France, to the east of Spain. This wine is from the winery listed on the front here. So Domaine de Cambie on the front. Then the wine's name, this is called Calliope. And then the designation on the bottom is Saint Chinian. So Saint Chinian is the actual DO inside of the Languedoc. And that's all this front label tells you. So you have to look at the back label for this one. So same information on the back. Domaine de Cambie, Calliope, Saint Chinian. And it has, that's its appellation. And then this has the vintage year on the back. So 2017 tells you the grape varieties, which is Grenache, Roussanne, and Vermentino. And then it just tells you a little bit about the wine, the terroir, like the style of earth that it was grown in, a little bit about it. And then it has your usual stuff. Alcohol by volume, the stamp from where it's made, and then product of France is listed on the back. Very simple labels from the Languedoc. Languedoc has some interesting wines. They're both, you can get kind of both blends and single varietals out of that region. And so you have to just sort of peek at the label a little bit to sort of get some idea of where they're going with their label. So leaving from the Languedoc, we're going to move into something more complicated. So now we are here in Burgundy. So if you have a bottle of red Burgundy, it is always 100% Pinot Noir. If you have a white Burgundy, it is always 100% Chardonnay. Those are just the rules. So knowing some of these background rules will allow you to know what it is you're picking up. So on this one, it's a little bit different than some of the earlier ones. So instead of having the winery name at the top, we have the winery name across the bottom. So this is from Domaine Moyard, and then it has actually the address of the winery here. And one thing that you will notice on your wine labels, it actually by law must have the address of the winery on it. All wine labels will have the address, and it is required by law in every country. So on the top, we have the little vineyard stamp, which is kind of the crest of the family. And then where it's from. So this is Montaly. Montaly is a small single plot area that is inside the Côte d'Or, which is a larger area. And I will put up a little map here where you can kind of see exactly where we're talking about. And then you have underneath that will tell you what the designation is as far as its quality level. So in Burgundy, you have multiple different designations, starting at the top with Monopole, which is super small, super high quality plots of land. And then Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and then you have the village, or village as it were. So this is the village wine. And then Vin de Pailly is below that, basically, and then you have your table wine, which would be at the bottom. So this is kind of in the middle of that range. And then on the back, same thing, a little story about the vintage year, where it was grown, a little history on the winery. It has the wine label or the winery's address as you have to. Alcohol by volume, your UPC code, the stamp, the Made in France stamp on the back. And that's pretty much telling you everything you need to know on this one. So Burgundy will give you a little bit of information. Moving to Bordeaux, and they just assume you know, because otherwise, why would you be spending this kind of money on a bottle of wine? That's the truth. Because this tells you nothing, absolutely nothing. If you don't know anything about Chateau Pontet-Canet and the Pauillac region, you have no concept of what is in this bottle of wine, because they tell you nothing. So here we are. Grand Cru classification from 1855, so we know that it is an exceptional piece of land. Chateau Pontet-Canet, one of the greatest houses of the Pauillac region. This is an exceptional vintage. 2008 was a great year. This is a 98-point wine. And then it just tells you who owns it. The Tesseron family on the bottom is listed. And then on the back, it tells you exactly the same thing and nothing more. You have the alcohol by volume because you have to, product of France, the address because you have to have the address, and that's all it tells you, nothing else. So what you have to know is what does that area of Bordeaux put in their blends, and each house will be different, each vineyard will be different. Everybody makes their own wines in their own way. Left bank tends to be different than the right bank, and we'll go through Bordeaux a little bit more in depth in a singular episode where we talk about Bordeaux. So the one thing that you do need to know if you're picking up a bottle that says Bordeaux on it anywhere, that it is one of the Bordeaux regions, so Pauillac, Pomerol, Saint-Estèphe, Saint-Emilion, Margaux, Médoc, Haute-Médoc, Grave, I think that's most of them. If it has any of those designations on it, then you will know that it is always going to contain at least one or all or some of the following grapes: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc, and in the least amount of cases, Malbec. So those 5 grapes are the 5 grapes of Bordeaux, and you will find one or some or all of those grapes in every single Bordeaux that is grown. Bordeaux is a tricky one, so like I said, we'll do a whole class on Bordeaux, so you get an idea of the locations of all the different regions. So lastly, let's look at Italy. So Italy is another tricky one because Italy can't seem to make up their mind on whether they want to be old growth or new growth. So many Italian wines have the varietal listed on the front, what kind of grape they actually are. They make a lot of great single varietal wines. And then there's a lot of the old world style wines from Italy that just tell you where they're from. Things like Chianti, or in this case, this is Barbaresco from the Piedmont area. Now, what people need to understand is that if it's coming from Chianti, then you know it's got Sangiovese. Sangiovese is the grape of Chianti. Most Sangioveses are just Chianti. There is blending allowed in Chianti as far as the allowances of the DO, but 80% of that wine has to be Sangiovese. It won't tell you that anywhere. Same with Piedmont. So in Piedmont, Barbaresco and all the more famous probably Barolo are always Nebbiolo. So it doesn't tell you that anywhere on here. So what we have is the vineyard. This is the Elvio Cogno is the name of the producer. Then we have the vineyard itself, which is Bordini. That's a single vineyard in the Barbaresco designation, and the vintage year is 2016. And then on the back, same thing, Barbaresco, DOCG, and then the Bordini vineyard, 2016, and then the Elvio Cogno label on the back here. Then it has the product of Italy stamp, the legal requirements, this, you know, your warning label, the size of the bottle, and the alcohol content. Nowhere on the bottle does it say that this is 100% Nebbiolo. So you just kind of need to learn some of those old world designations have specific grape varieties that they use, and that will help guide you to better choices. And in the meantime, if that doesn't suit you, always pick wines that have a single variety in them and come from the New World, and you'll always know exactly what it is you're getting. The only thing is that if you stick to buying these New World wine single varietals, you're going to find yourself missing out on some of the most incredible wine experiences, because the old world wines, Italians, the French, Burgundy, Bordeaux, you know, the stuff from Tuscany, Chianti, Piedmont, all of these areas have got such storied wine tradition and such an enormous history that you really need to find your way into that world at some point. But for whatever makes you comfortable, stick to the single varietals from the New World. And then as you start to get more comfortable and you do a little bit more research and you watch a few more of our classes, then you can drift your way into some of these more complicated wines. So next time we'll start getting a little bit more in depth about the specific areas around the world, and you'll learn some new things about new varieties from different countries you probably never had wine from. So I hope that you tune in again for our next class, and I hope you enjoyed this one. So I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.